back to the Rugby Pod. I'm Andy Rowe, Big Jim and Gertie are with me as usual. Beer 52 are with us throughout the Six Nations and are offering you free beers delivered straight to your door from the very best breweries on the planet. You can get a case of 8 free beers and there's no minimum commitment. You can just take the free case, try the beers, see what you think, and you can pause or cancel at any time. It's perfect to go with your Six Nations viewing. All you need to do is go to beer52.com/rugby and cover the postage. That's the word beer followed by the number 52.com/rugby to get your first case of 8 beers for free. And there's only a couple of weeks left to get those 8 free beers in. So if you haven't done it already, make sure you go and get involved. How's your week been, boys?
James, should we start with you?
We can do, but I like looking at you today. You've got a bit of colour in your face, which has been rare over recent weeks. But anyway, it's enough about you. And on to me. Sun's out, guns out, lads, eh?
Why are you looking so pasty then? I've been sat out in the garden for 2 days. It's absolutely lovely down here. It's about 14 degrees and we've got a sun trap in our garden. So the sun beats down, there's no wind. We've been out there Saturday, Sunday with the kids.
I bet your garden is it south facing? It's that big it doesn't even matter if it's south facing, is it? You're one of those.
It is actually south facing, so yeah, very nice.
But why am I so pasty?
Well, why are you so pasty?
Well, the sun's out in Scotland, but it's still -3. So that's been nice. I mean, what a week. Maybe I'm saying that off the back of what a weekend, but yeah, my weekend looked very different to what it should have been. I must have been the most excited I've been since the last time I went down to London to do the England-Scotland game. I thought I was going down, put it on social media, bit of a black and white photo, build the mood, set the mood. People are like, haha, you won't be going. I know that France isn't going to be happening, but I'm still thinking, they're going to want me. After me showing against England, they're going to want me still. Got the message, didn't I, on Thursday, Friday, not needed. So I didn't tell Beck, though. I didn't tell her. I was like, I'm just going to go anyway and pretend like get there and be like, they didn't need me. I had no idea. But through the grapevine, she kind of thought that I wasn't needed. I don't know how. I don't know whether she's been strolling through my phone or on the laptop or whatever. But no, the week unfolded not the way in which I envisaged. It was one of them, like when you're about to go on a lad's night out or on a stag do or anywhere without the family, right? Well, you do everything in it before, won't you? Be happy to get up in the morning, you're making dinner, how is everyone? I'll do a bit of the homework. Kids, I'll help you with the colouring books. How are you feeling? Have a sleep. Do you want a coffee? Like what? Anything and everything, because I know I'm going away.
Super husband, eh?
Super husband. I know that I'm going away for what is one day, but I'm going to stretch it out to 3 or 4. So I tell you, flat as a pancake on Sunday. I'm like, I should be in London now on the big screen, but I wasn't. I was on there for 3 minutes via Zoom, and that's as far as it got. But as we know, and we'll get into, Andrew, and we spoke about it today, being Monday, I'm on my phone an unhealthy amount at the minute. It is not healthy, as we've seen. I'm sure we're going to talk about it in today's show. I think a lot of people are on their phone an unhealthy amount. How easy is it just to type a few things on your phone and just throw it out there to the 70.4 thousand that I've now accumulated on Twitter? It's just too easy. And there's almost a part of me that was woken up today on Monday, being the day that we record the podcast, is I don't know whether me doing that is the right thing to do. One of my tweets was like, oh, my ref. And I was like, is that a bit harsh or is it a bit funny or... No, actually, it's probably about right, actually.
Yeah, it's about... You question yourself, Jim. And I think the thing that people are doing at the minute, because you can't do anything, right? So we're in a lockdown, but everyone's getting a bit antsy now because you can see the light at the end of the tunnel with what's happening, and the stages that the country is going to get reopened. I mean, fuck knows what's happening in Scotland. Nicola Sturgeon's under all sorts of... She's under all sorts of pressure with the piles at the back of the skirt as well. So, yeah, I mean... Jim and I had a phone call earlier, had a chat. I was like, mate, what about our screen time at the minute? What are you clocking up a day? And I'm embarrassed to say.
I can't even say it.
Yeah.
I cannot even say it.
Shall
we share it or not? Shall we share it, Andrew?
I've got a good excuse, Jim. I've been 4 weeks. I've left the house in the 4 weeks since my operation. I've left the house twice to go and see my surgeon specialist, Andy Roach, who's an absolute legend fixing the old ankle. And last week was quite exciting. Thursday, I managed to get in an Uber, drive into London with the Uber man, with a mask on, and he's got a screen up and everything like that. And I've had the cast off. The cast has come off my leg, and I'm in Das Boot, Jim. I'm in Das Boot.
The leg is breathing. It is breathing.
Oh, it's sweating now because the boots are Das boot is making it a bit sweaty, so I'll try and get it off as much as possible. And then I think to myself, what, in 4 weeks, what have you done? Well, I've been recovering from ankle surgery, lying in bed on my phone, flicking through absolutely everything. And I've got a good excuse though, and so have you. We do all our work on our phone as well, Jim.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm trying to say to the
missus. All our emails. So when you're clocking up 12 hours of screen time a day, Jim,
share the number. Let's share the honest
12
numbers.
Hours.
Andrew, let's share the honest numbers to the masses out there. Now,
okay.
I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed by this number because it's almost like I'm seeing my phone more than my kids, it seems. And this is last week where I thought I was the best dad ever because I thought I was going down to London. And I averaged 7 hours a day. I'm embarrassed to say it. Is that a lot or not? I'd love to know what the masses think with that. And Andrew, what were you? You were 9 hours one day, you told me.
One day I got up to 9.5 hours, but my average, you talk about toppers, my average was 7.5 hours. But the nanny takes the kids out 4 days a week. So, and I'm working on my phone and, I'm scrolling through social media. It is addictive. And I tried to put the phone down and read a book. And it's like anything, you start reading a book and, when you get those moments when your mind wanders when you're reading a book. Does anyone else get that? You're reading a book, you should just be fully focused on.
What do you think?
Exactly, yeah. And then I think, oh, sorry, I'll put the book down. What's happening in the world? And have a flick again. So it is addictive, isn't it? Not in a sense of, I want more and more and more, but you just find yourself doing it the whole time. And it's weird, isn't it? And especially this weekend.
I'm going to be better, especially this weekend. And that's what it goes back to, Goody. After this weekend, I'm going to be better. And I don't know what better is. I don't know whether that's more strategic in my timing of posting stuff so I get more followers, or just don't say anything at all, or go down your route and give a running commentary on everything that's happening because you're lying on your back and you've got your Das boot on and you're an influencer. Well, we're influencers.
We are.
I don't know whether that's a good thing or not.
Well, I've got no bed sores, so that's a good thing. But Andy Rowe, let's ask about you, because often you kind of get brushed over a little bit, which is
a little bit.
You look different, mate. You look what's changed? I mean,
he's got a podcast.
I'm watching the England game. Oh, yes, yeah. Fuck you. You wouldn't know about it, though, would you? I'm watching the England game. I'm watching all the game. Loads of boys who've had their hair done. Andy Rowe, you look different. What's happened?
Almost the end of my relationship.
Is that a positive or a negative?
The massive negative. The engagement was almost off, guys.
Why?
Tell you what, there must be a lot of people out there that have got their missus to cut their hair and it's just gone pear-shaped. Like I haven't had my hair cut for 6 months. So the desperation was to just, get rid of it. But Jackie thought she could get on YouTube and work out how to cut hair properly. It's the first crack at it. And the arguments just started flowing about 5 minutes into it.
I ain't bothered about where this relationship goes. All I'm bothered is hold on to the summer. Just hold on to the summer and brush it all under the carpet and then bring out the hair cuts, because I'm sure there's a few of them. I'm hearing people get split up left, right and centre that I know. And I can understand why. A
question though. Surely there's a question from your missus though. If you're getting her to do your hair and shave it and trim it and whatever, and you're raging at her for doing it, who are you doing your hair for if you're not doing it for your missus, Andy? That's what I need to know.
Yeah, I've got a podcast.
Oh, right. Okay, there we go. Yeah.
He's got to look really good on that. But Andy, rugby was that topical at the weekend. I even saw you banging out a few tweets and gear.
Hey, I went viral for the first time.
Which one?
What's viral? 20 likes for you?
No, I got like 5,500 likes.
I didn't see it.
The Fijian singing.
I did see it.
Oh my God! Just couldn't.
You've made
talk
it.
About time on your screen. Yeah, I knew I'd made it when I went viral.
Mate, when you go viral, mate, you know.
You are welcome.
We're talking about social media. A lot of angry English fans out there at the moment. What do you make of the Sonia McLaughlin stuff?
We don't want to stereotype and say that they're English, but let's just say the people south of the border of Scotland, jokes aside, we don't know if they are all English. They could be from wherever, because that's what people do on social media. I don't know. I'm not split on seeing it come out, because there is an element to when you're in the public eye and the public domain, people are going to throw stones, aren't they? For a number of reasons. So with Sonia, it could be around her being a woman. Why is she in that job? And we see some of the best women are in that job. Sonia's great at asking questions. Gabby Logan, the same as a presenter. Jill Douglas as well. So you get some people who are women in them positions that are fantastic and better than men. And Sonia's a woman that asks the difficult questions. Me and Goody have spoken about it before. When she called Eddie Jones out on that interview, it was brilliant because it was actually the questions that we're all, and we probably wouldn't have the knackers to ask him, you know, or Owen after a game. But the questions that she's asking is what we want to know effectively, and it's the obvious. And the way that the world is now, and I think it has been enhanced more in the rugby fraternity because of lockdown, because we're not in the pubs chatting about the games with our mates and vetting about refereeing decisions and, you know, and whatever. But it's just shone a light, I think, more so on the need for some regulations around social media. I know there's a load of stuff out there, some solutions, but from Sonia's perspective, Goody, I know that you put a tweet out, I messaged her as well. It's a shame because she's obviously been deeply affected by some comments that have come her way. And, you know, we'll reiterate, there's a fine line between, and have we, you know, do I know that line? You know, do we know that line about what we've got out on social media, how that affects people? But one thing's for certain is, I think, you know, if the stuff's true, which seems to be around Sonia, and, you know, we can talk about Genji later, then it's disgusting.
Yeah, I think the big thing around it is there's a fine line, and you talk about that fine line. There's a very big difference between having an opinion, which Twitter is built for people having their opinions, and how you portray that opinion and whether you throw abuse in with it. So I actually tweeted, I watched the pre-match build-up, and Sonia McLaughlin did an amazing, what I thought was an amazing interview with Owen Farrell in the week building up to the game. So she's gone to their training base at the Lensbury, interviewed him and asked him some tough questions. I just thought it was, and I actually tweeted a brilliant interview from Sonia McLaughlin asking Owen Farrell some tough questions. And she was asking him about form, asking him about the attack, and kept going until he got an answer. And we all know what Owen Farrell's like. He's spiky, but he doesn't want to give, you know, he's always just talking about, we're going to get better, we're going to train hard and get better and all that stuff. And that's his right and that's his prerogative. But Sonia McLaughlin is a journo doing her job, asking questions that probably the majority of people want to hear the answers to. And you're not always going to get the right answer that you want to hear. You're not always going to get an answer from an Owen Farrell around a referee. So what I actually tweeted pre-match, how good I thought the interview was and how she probed and asked fair but tough questions. And then everything after the game, what if you're any reporter, any journalist, any interviewer in the world after the game, you get a chance to ask Owen Farrell and Eddie Jones questions about that game. You're going to ask about the referee,
which the millions of people are talking about, and she'll know that as well. Yeah,
the two decisions, and you're going to not just go, "Oh, what do you think of the referee?" and if he doesn't answer, move on. You're going to probe him because that's your job as a journalist. And then you're going to ask about the discipline of the players, and then you're going to ask, you know, other stuff about the game. She did a perfect job in terms of asking questions, and what it's boiled down to is, you know, this, like Jim said, this social media thing now of people just coming out harsh abuse. Now, I got called a Tory, see you next Tuesday, because I said I didn't think it was a knock on. Now, to me, it doesn't matter what you vote, whether you vote Labour, whether you voted Brexit, whether you voted Liberal Democrats, but the Liberals that want to silence everyone and want everyone to just agree with their point of view, he's come at me, calling me a Tory, see you next Tuesday, because I said it wasn't, in my opinion, I didn't think it was a knock on. But he disagrees. But so disagree with me by all accounts. I don't care. I've got thick skin, as we know. There's a lot of it, and it's very thick. But some people take it in different ways. Once you get abusive, I'm happy to have a debate on anything, because the bottom line is Twitter's about opinions and social media. You're allowed to put your opinion out there. But when you have an opinion and tag that with abuse, that's the difference, and that's the issue. You know, we're never all going to agree on everything. Of course we're not. We're all built differently, different animals. And you know, when people step over the line and you know, go at Sonia McLaughlin for doing a job, it's an absolute disgrace, and make it personal around it. And we all, you know, personal attacks come left, right, and centre. And part of it is finding that line. Jim and I are good mates. We take the mickey out of each other. You know, we're good mates, we're allowed to. But then it's like when we used to walk down the street, Jim. People used to shout at me, Jim, belly monster, and they'd shout at you, "Hey, melted wheelie bin." And sometimes it's all right. Other times,
you don't love your kids. You don't love your kids. I know.
So, and some people, you know, it's very difficult for some people to take, and others take it in other ways. But highs and lows of social media, and you can't just always have the pats on the back. This is the thing. Genji, and we'll come on to that one as well. He said he's had death threats. If you're having a death threat, that's something you've got to go straight to the police with, because it's a criminal offence.
Ring the police.
So you'd hope that the only way to get rid of that stuff is social media channels doing more, but also you get a death threat, go to the police and report the fucker, screenshot it, take it to the police and get a proper investigation, because it's the world's gone mad at the minute. And because we're all locked up in how we are and everyone has these opinions, I can't imagine many people saying, Goody, that wasn't a knock on you Tory cunt in the street, but it's very easy to type it over Twitter, isn't it? And it's the same for Sonia McLaughlin, the abuse that she got. Would they say it to her face? Absolutely not. It's just heroes behind a keyboard that are not heroes. They think they're heroes. They're absolute weapons.
There's a part of me in all this, right? And it's easy to say, as a player, I struggled sometimes with critique from the media, or I struggled from the exterior perspective. For whatever reasons, we can talk about another time. Mark McCall called me out on it, and we had a deep and meaningful conversation in Verbier or wherever we were while he was holding a giant...
Another trip.
Yeah, let me set the scene. He was holding a giant blow-up penis, and he asked me why I didn't have the confidence of Jono, for example. It's probably because I was paid half the amount he was. Or Marrow, and we could talk about him as well. But there's an element of me now. We're in the media or whatever. We've got an opinion. We're paid to give an opinion. You have to be able to give an opinion. You have to be able to pass judgment, which is something that I'm not overly comfortable with all the time. But I know that that's my job. And most of the time, I'm arguably wrong. Look at the Wales stuff. Look at Alan Wynne-Jones and stuff around him. Arguably, I'm wrong. But also, there's an element now. I know that I'm doing my job well because we're still doing a podcast, because, there's other media stuff. So I don't, and people are giving me shit online. Of course they are. YouTube's the funniest one. If you were to go through them and take it personally, I don't know these people. They don't know me. And I'm sure that people listening to this or who've listened to this before are probably sick of my voice, right? And there'll be a small minority of people out there that are like, oh, I've had enough of this bloke. But the millions of you out there think I'm an absolute legend, so it doesn't really matter. But it is that small minority that can sometimes
be the louder voice.
Be the louder voice, exactly, Andrew, and that makes you feel shit about yourself. But I said to Sonia, like, you've got to base what you're doing on your inner circle, as it were. It's easy. It's easy to judge, isn't it? And this is the thing around the media in terms of rugby and the stuff that's come out about the concussion stuff and the game going soft, and the guys who played in the media are saying, oh, you've not played, so you don't know what it's like. I still believe there's an element, unless you're in it, unless you're in the circle, both from a media, a playing perspective, fully embedded it, and you're not a rugby flirt on the outside, is you're going to get judged, right? So we're judging people, Goody, when we're watching it, we're watching the referees at the weekend, we're watching the players, and we're also being judged by our opinion as well. And that is the world, that is the life we've decided to lead. And for whatever reason, obviously death threats and hate, I'm not, obviously, but my advice would be, and my advice to my kids will be, was just don't read it. And as hard as that is, and as easy as is that to say, it's like I always say, social media is heaven and hell, right? It is heaven and hell for what it does. 7 hours average on my phone, probably 6 hours of that is Twitter. Heaven and hell. There's a lot of devils about, and there really is. And there might not be as many devils as angels. God, I'm getting all amen, brother, amen, love you. But that's the way of the world. It isn't an isolated incident with Sonia or Genji or yourself. It's everywhere, unfortunately. So, just we'll try and spread a bit more love and a bit more positivity, because I'm sure we're going to come on to a load of positive shit now.
Jim, you mentioned you weren't on the big screen. That's because France and Scotland weren't even on the pitch in Paris. Well, how's the investigation going, boys? What's the latest? What do we know?
Oh, my Fabien and his glasses. That's all I'm saying. And the waffles. And the waffles.
Yeah, we don't know much about the waffles in Rome, but we know now that it's come out about Fabien. You couldn't script it. Well, you could. Sorry, you could script it. You could script it, because if any team was going to fall to the COVID sword, it was going to be France, unfortunately. And it's ridiculous when you look at it. You look at, and I spoke about it on ITV, whether or not they published it, I probably sounded really negative when I spoke about it, but there's not much positivity around it, is there? Let's just set the scene for the millions of people who can't remember what happened Obviously, France doing really well in the tournament, had a really good win against Ireland over in Dublin. And all the scenes after the match, I think, Goody, you posted a few things and we kind of got behind it, probably forgetting about the situation that we find ourselves in during a pandemic and not understanding the protocols that go in place for the international teams. They're celebrating the win, right? In normal times, not a problem whatsoever. Except this time, the players are having to social distance for the bloody anthems, right? They're in these COVID bubbles, secure bubbles, that, put it this way, the England team aren't even allowed to leave their room. Okay, once they get back to training, they have to come out in different pods to sit down. The Scotland teams as well. You get an hour out of your room. The rest of the time, you're in your room together. France are in the change rooms after the game. And again, opening them up a bit here.
You've got the masks.
Uwe masks. You've got the match day 23 plus mates or plus the travelling reserves. You've got Sean Edward shouting teabag on the bench. It looks brilliant. It really does. But in the situation we find ourselves in, it's mental. And what's even more mental is that they're not cameras from a broadcaster. They're their own social media people videoing it, thinking it's play on. So from a French perspective, they think it's play on. Then I go back to it again. We took the piss about it. One of my mates is a physio for Ireland now. He's triple masking. He's got a visor on. He's got his gloves tucked in underneath, a PPE underneath. He's got PPE over the top. He can barely breathe. And he's on there treating players. And you've got the French physios running on there. Où est le masque? Well, I'll tell you where it is. It's just over my mouth. Now, I ain't a scientist or a doctor, but I'm thinking something, ain't going to stop COVID getting in or getting out. But again, who am I to judge? And then what happens is an investigation goes in to find out, how did this happen? Was it the waffles in Rome, which is rumoured to have been had by the French team in the lead up to the Italy game? Or is it something else? And we're thinking, all right, might be a young lad. We're in about seventh player coming in to the bubble to train. Oh, no. Oh, no.
It's the top dog.
It's the top boss. It's the top dog. Of course it is. It's Fabien, the absolute cowboy, who don't give a shit. When we were at Montpellier as my head coach, he didn't give a shit about the players. He didn't get, he was bigger than the game. There you go. It's him. Of course it is. And now what? Now they're talking about playing the game on the 28th or 29th of March, Pro 14 final. Exeter are playing Gloucester on the Friday night, so Hoggy and Johnny Gray won't be able to play unless Exeter release them. Chris Harris will be playing. Cam Redpath at Bath is playing that weekend. Racing have got to release Finn. It's an absolute shit show. And that's what I tweeted 3 weeks ago. Scotland 28, France 0.
Yeah.
The Oracle.
It is bizarre. And the other thing that you didn't mention then, Jim, is they also started pointing the finger elsewhere, didn't they? They said, it probably started in Ireland and blamed the Irish. I mean, it's so French, it's unbelievable. You're flying the tournament, you're 2 from 2, and you've just self-imploded, right? I mean, and it's not just a little youngster doing it, as Jim said. It's the gaffer. It is Fabien and his glasses, Gaultier. And then Bernard Deportes comes out and says, "Oh, it's okay. He has every right to go and stand outside. He's in his mask," and he stood next to Lombard, who's the Stade Francais director or coach or whatever he is, and he's making excuses saying it's all right. The facts are, they all signed up to an agreement of how to live by these COVID protocols and the bubble. And yes, in the weeks in between, there are some changes. So all the England boys are at home now this week. But around the testing protocols, they test and then retest and then come back into the bubble. If you've signed up and you've got the privilege of playing international rugby and you're getting well remunerated for it as well, just abide by the rules, boys. And especially the gaffer, he's just off to watch his son. I mean, it's crazy. And for me, the big thing is, like Jim says, how do you fit it back in to a season? And I said, I'm sure I did a column for this on Rugby Pass before the season started, before the Six Nations started, around what are the outcomes of games being cancelled, because we knew that last Six Nations, everything just got cancelled because of where we're at, and they found a window. We're now in a season that's condensed already by all the club games. The French thing to do would be to not release Finn Russell, who plays and earns his money in France, to play for Scotland against France. He has to play on club duty, but insist the game goes ahead. Without a shadow of a doubt, because there's only one group of people to blame in this instance, and Scotland are going to be massively handicapped if the game goes ahead on that weekend, like Jim said, with all the boys playing around the world, in different leagues. And so they don't have jurisdiction to for the clubs to release them. It's a shit show. It's an absolute shit show. France should lose the game, and Scotland should win it 28-0, and then Scotland might win the title. Who knows, Jim?
Well, let's get on to the rugby. What happened on the field in Cardiff, Gertie?
Oh, you're going to say in Cardiff? All I know is the Dragons lost to Zebra in the Guinness Pro 14, so it ain't all that great for Wales, is it, boys?
I didn't see it.
Mate, I mean, you can look at lots of things. Obviously, the big ones are the two refereeing decisions that allowed tries, and we might as well start there. So the first one, the crossfield kick, and I kind of feel a bit for Pascal Gauzet because he's got absolutely rinsed on this.
This isn't like you. This isn't like you.
Well, here's the thing, though. So he tells Owen Farrell, he says, "Abu with your players." What he doesn't say is, "Owen, get everyone in, have a huddle, get the drinks boys in, and literally stop the game." It was, you've seen it, how many times have we seen it in any game where you say, "Have a word with your players," and he calls time off, and it's literally a 10-second, lads, any more of this, we've got to sort our discipline out. Next one goes to the bin. That's all that needs saying, right? And so he goes time off. And the other argument, and the other thing that I'll say, and I tried to show a video on social media of it, Johnny Mamie, old chicken, he's been in the huddle and he's got back to his wing on the other side before Pascal Gauzet says time on. Now, I'm not saying it should have been. I'm not saying Pascal Gauzet is inexcusable for this. It's a bit of blurred lines around what should and shouldn't have happened. The fact is, I can't remember what coach said it. Was it Pat Lam that says you either win or you learn? And so England are going to learn. And you look at England's performance across the whole. The try in the second half from the quick tap penalty, 3 or 4 of the boys just sleeping. Elliot Daly with his back turned, a few of the players not even reacting. So what England will do is react to everything now, and you'll see a massive change in that. But they were half asleep, weren't they? And I think that is off the back of, I'll just blame Saracens. The boys aren't playing. They ain't match fit. They ain't used to playing ruggers. And
I thought Billy played very well.
They're walking around the field. But no, I'm joking. That's at the throwaway comment. But yeah, I think that first one.
I just think you broke the code of decency there. And I'll go with Jono, appalling refereeing. Regardless of, Owen going back to the team or whatever, it's almost just like, you just think, shit, lad. What have you? That's what I was thinking. I was like, I get that side of the argument as well. But yeah, Johnny May's got back to his wing. Yeah, but he probably weren't in the huddle. We couldn't be asked. But
he was right in there, and he got back out.
Yeah, but that's what he does. Then he's in there. It's like a chicken going back into his cage. What do they go back at? A pen. Yeah. The other argument is the water bottles are on, and being a bit of a nausea, mate, it's dangerous. If someone lands on a water bottle, who knows where that thing could end up? You know what I mean? So Jenkins is on. Neil Jenkins is on there.
I wonder if he had the tea. I wonder if he had the tea in his pocket as well.
He might have done. He would have done, but
just didn't show it, because as soon as the tea is on the field, you have to go for goal.
Imagine him getting run. Imagine if the ball bounced off the post, or didn't go out, and Billy's got the ball, and he'd kill Neil Jenkins by running over him. It's dangerous. So I just thought, I don't know. Maybe there's an argument for the relationship with Owen Farrell and the referees. And
I think Owen Farrell, his learning from it is perhaps getting clarity from Pascal Gauzet, because Pascal Gauzet just said, "Speak to your players." It wasn't, "I'm going to give you a time off, speak to your players." Owen Farrell, you see a lot of captains then question the referee and say, "Well, can you hold off time off while I speak to my players?" It was just all right, and he walks off, gets them in a huddle, and so. I completely see both sides of the argument. I've seen English people say, "Well, we shouldn't have been in the huddle with the water carriers. We should have been more reactive." I've seen people say Johnny May got back to his ring on one side, Anthony Watson, didn't. He was half asleep or whatever he was. He was just thinking that that's fine. And tip the slipper to Dan Biggar. He said to Pascal Gauzet, "Can you let me know when you're putting time on?" And he said, "Yeah, no problem." And it was something like 23 seconds or something, wasn't it? Between time off and time on. There was plenty of time, mate, to just get a little message across like that. You've been the skipper of one of the most successful teams, that one time that Gloucester got absolutely humped by 50 points down at Irish. Yeah. What would you have done, mate?
That day, considering I got red carded for basically killing the bloke David Pace on the pitch. I don't know. I genuinely, I look at that. But you look at Martin Johnson, who obviously played in a different era, but one of the most decorated captains to have ever played the game. and you're going based on his point of view. I mean, we can talk about this all day. The big thing about it for me is I was thinking this: if Wales win this game, it's taking the shine off Wales winning this game. 2 red cards in the first 2 games for them, and then these decisions. And I know there was a tweet that came up on social media. Is Jim going to apologise?
Are you?
I'm sorry.
Well said, James.
From the bottom of my heart, I am. There's a couple of things. I'm pumped for rugby that Wales aren't on the demise and aren't on for a wooden spoon, and I'm embarrassed by some of my comments before. I'm happy to say it.
Which
I'm happy to
comments?
say it. A load of them saying that I think Wales are down and out. Alan Wynne-Jones isn't the player that he was. I thought he was brilliant. I don't think he was as good as Marrow, even though Marrow gave away 10 penalties or whatever it was, 5 penalties at the weekend. And that's what it is, isn't it? We've got an opinion. Not our opinion's not always right. Most of the time it is, but a lot of the time it's not. And I think from a Welsh perspective and watching Wayne Pivac's body language from the first week in the Six Nations, and you could visibly see just in his eyes, because that's all we could see, the pressure to the emotion of Game 3 against England at the weekend. You can't not be happy for him. And for whatever reason, spoke about it before, and I, for one, have written Wales off. I don't know why. I've only ever beaten them once, right? When it really, really matters, they rock up. A Lions year, Gatland's in the crowd wearing his mask, absolutely loving it. Playing against England, everyone's thinking England are going to beat them. You know, Alan Wynne-Jones, captain, I've questioned him. Is he good enough? George North, we spoke about him 2 years ago. I'm like, I don't think he's that good. He was phenomenal at the weekend. Yeah. And then you add into the mix now, they've got Lewis Rees-Zammit. You know, Josh Adams, after COVID gate, comes in and plays the way that he's playing. Fair play to them. And another point that, you know, we can talk about as well is the back row for Wales as well. Justin Tipperick, and my CEO at Rugby Pass, Neil, mentioned it, and I hadn't thought about it like this. We know he plays well every single week. Doesn't give away a penalty.
No.
He never gives away penalties in the way that he plays. So I'll go back to my point. From a Welsh perspective, I am sorry. I will never, ever doubt you again until you drop Alan Wynne-Jones, and then you're never going to win again, because that guy is the informed second row in the Six Nations.
Yeah.
Callum has asked us on Instagram, sent in a message. What do you think of the way Owen Farrell spoke to the referee in the aftermath of that first try?
That's the problem, I think, unfortunately, for Owen. And this goes back to my first point on the relationship that you have with referees. You can hear Owen on the ref mic shouting at the referee, you know, shouting at the players, because he's so competitive, right? And he's desperate to win. You see Johnny Sexton, the same. They're probably very similar. Well, they are very similar in terms of how they interact with the referee, the emotion that they show, they can't hide it. You know, Owen's got a lot to work on to be England captain. It's not a case of just being England captain and that's that. And you're the best player, or, you know, you're scoring the points, or you're driving the team around. For me, and again, it's easy to sit and judge when you're sat at home. Like, he's done more in the game than most people. So it's easy to sit at home and judge and say, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. I want to see Owen succeed as England captain. You know, I was watching his dad's clips when he was playing rugby league. There was this thing going around fights, and you look at him playing for Ireland. They're rugby to their absolute core. I don't know if there's another family in the Northern Hemisphere that is rugby to the core like them in terms of the decoration that they've had across both codes. But Owen's got a lot to work on in terms of how he deals with the referee, that interaction.
Empathy, isn't it?
Yeah, empathy, you know, and the media stuff as well,
Yeah.
being the front man for the team. And this goes, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it goes to, you know, the Lions captain. It's not always the very best player. It's someone that embodies everything. And I think that, again, it could be COVID, it could be the lockdown situation, it could be the pressures of rugby. There seems to be a disconnection between this England team and fans and, you know, people, and, you know, Owen's fronting that. And I want to see him come through that and be able to prove people wrong. But clearly, the way that he's speaking to the referees isn't being well liked.
Yeah, I think it's tough, isn't it? Because naturally, that's how he is, ultimate competitor. So And he's been able to develop this persona, and he's been allowed, referees have allowed that to happen and grow. And the way he's spoken to referees before has never been questioned. So you think that then becomes normal. And, Jim, you've experienced it personally yourself, the way he is with players, because he's demanding the best out of everyone. It sometimes spills over into, you think it's too harsh how he's handling people and how he's saying things. So it is something he's got to work on. He needs empathy with referees. I remember Jono, and you talk about him as a leader. There was times when Jono would go on his haunches to bring his height down to what the referee is. So I
copied him at Connacht away for Gloucester when I was captain. I went down on my knees because that's what Jono said.
Well, that's just because you couldn't breathe.
Very true.
Yeah. But there's ways of handling referees, and it's, some referees, you're going to be able to talk to in certain ways. Some referees will get rattled. You saw Pascal Gauzet didn't want to talk to him, and it was a bit of panic. It was a bit of, no, I've said my decision. No, it is it. But it's the way that Owen approached him and was so incandescent with his facial expressions, as well as how he was saying what he wanted to say to Pascal Gauzet, that he's always going to get his back up. But yeah, I mean, people talk about Maro Itoje as a potential Lions captain. And then
Who said that?
I think you said it, didn't you?
Yeah.
But then you're looking at Maro Itoje, wonderful rugby player that lives on the edge, but clearly he's living on the wrong side of the edge at the minute. He's disciplined, and that's only going to come more and more into focus of how he plays the game. Now he's given 5 penalties away in a game. He does it regularly, but he's got away with it, so he's allowed to develop that. And now it's all a big thing because he's been penalised 5 times. Well, because of his impacts around the pitch, and he is, working exceptionally hard, and he's such a nose at every breakdown, every maul, every ruck, every line-out drive, everything is test match level in terms of competitiveness. But that does spill over, and he's just got to rewind back 5% sometimes and wind his discipline in a little bit. So, there's so many questions. You look at the game as a whole, right? And no one's talked about the pass from Jamie George to Anthony Watson, which I thought was about 3 yards forward as a try. Things tend to balance themselves out. You go back to Italy last weekend, Johnny May, the close call between, did he jump the tackle or did he dive over to score the try?
Who caused that storm?
Exactly. You, I think it was Jim.
Yeah, it might have been me as well. What an absolute noise.
But that didn't really matter that much because it was only against Italy and people thought that England were going to win. Owen Farrell's hit in the back of the Italian scrum half, which, everyone's saying that should have been a penalty. So the try should have been. Didn't matter though because it's Italy. It matters this week because it's such a big contest between England and Wales and it's right in the spotlight. Go back a year. And this is something that no one's really said coming out of Wales. Go back a year to the England-Wales game at Twickenham last year. What happened in that game?
I can't remember. Tell me. I genuinely can't remember.
Joe Marler. What happened in that game?
He grabbed the willies and maybe the nuts for both. I don't know.
Yeah,
cock and balls.
Yeah. So he's done what he's done to Alan Jones, which people went, oh, it's just banter. It's fine. He's blah, blah, blah. He got a massive ban off the back of it. So what the judicial committee was saying is he should have been sent off. Now he gets sent off in that game. It changes the picture, and England win that game last year. And I think Manu got sent off at the end as well. But England, it ended up being quite tight towards the end. But that was in the first half when Joe Marler did that. England got away with it. England have got away with things, and it swings and roundabouts. So this time, the shoe's on the other foot, and both of the decisions went against an England team where Wales got gifted 2 tries by Pascal Gauzet. The French hate the English. That can't be part of it, but maybe it is. And, that's sport, isn't it, sometimes? And we can debate them, and people will, throw whatever they want around about, it's bitter this or you're twisting it there. England have been unlucky. Let's not beat around Jim's bush. England have been unlucky with those 2 calls. Could they have fixed some problems? I mean, the knock-on or not knock-on of Lewis Rees-Zammit is something that England couldn't have done anything about. It was a drop the ball, it's gone back, it's bounced freakily off Henry Slade's knee. Liam Williams has won the race to pick it up and score. You'd hope that that's seen as a knock-on. Pascal Gauzet didn't think it was. Nigel Owen said it was a knock-on. Pascal Gauzet has now said he's made a mistake. But that's life, right? So referees are making mistakes. They've made mistakes previously that have gone in. They've made mistakes previously that have gone in England's favour. and I named a few then, unfortunately, England's discipline let them down in the last 15 minutes. They got back to 24-all. We were playing some decent rugby. We put width on the ball. We looked dangerous. But then our discipline was just pretty abysmal. And a bit of that is around, is it around competitiveness in the squad? Is it around people trying too hard because they've got to try and, when they get the opportunity? There were some dumb penalties, weren't there? And I think the last 15 minutes, Wales finished very strongly. England, at 24-all, you think they can go on and win it. But Wales finished exceptionally strongly and deserved a win.
Just on that, Gertie, Daniel Marshall asked us on Twitter why England can't adapt referees when it's clear how they will ref them.
Well, I don't think anything's clear with the French ref, is it? So you've got to adapt. You have to, a couple of penalties, just take your foot off. Jono talked about it at half-time and post-match as well, around there's living on the edge, and then you give 2 or 3 penalties away, the ref's, he's got his back up a bit against you. So you just have to come back half a yard from offside, the offside line. You don't compete as hard at a line-out, Jim. The one where Murray gets done for jumping across and then he's part of them all. Just, there's those little things that when you're on the edge and you're competing and there's no penalties given away, it's okay to give one of those away. But when you've given 4 or 5 on the trot, you just can't risk it, can you?
No, that was the thing with Marrow, going back to him. I genuinely think, and again, doesn't matter what I think because I say some ridiculous stuff, I think England should make Maro Itoje captain, because I think that will take the edge off what he does. And I think that added leadership and the pressure of being captain will then make him a better player, because I think there needs to be a shift somewhere, whether or not Eddie Jones thinks or believes, and you don't give a shit what I say. But in my opinion, IMO, there needs to be a shift in the culture of the England team about the way that they're going about their business, both from a media point of view and on the pitch. And obviously Maro's liabilities around the penalties. Imagine if he didn't give away them penalties. For me, that's a career-changing moment for Maro, in my opinion. You've got Warren Gatland up in the stands. You're against a veteran in Alan Wynne-Jones. There's talk everywhere about Maro Itoje being captain of the British and Irish Lions. Sia Khaleesi being captain of South Africa. Amazon making a documentary. Imagine the profile that's going to be surrounding that. Okay, Maro knows that. His agency at Rock Nation know that. We know he's a world-class player, but that could have been a damaging game for him, because Warren Gatland's there. He's a decision maker. You've got your son playing, Alan Wynne-Jones, playing the way that he did and leading his team to victory against England the way that they did. And you've got Maro Itoje all over the place on media, building a brand alongside that, doing what he did. So I think it'll be a career-defining moment for Maro, and I genuinely think he'll come out of it better.
It's massive, though, isn't it? Well, you talk about the British and Irish Lions, and hopefully we hear at some point what is exactly going to happen. But you look at the 4 captains of the nations, and they've all got their kind of downsides as to how and why they perhaps shouldn't be captain. Obviously, Farrell's one is his demeanour with referees at the minute and how he acts. Alan Wynne-Jones' one is he going to be good enough in the summer to be a test player? And people have talked about that. On his performance at the weekend, you'd probably say yes. Ireland, their captain's Johnny Sexton, as we've talked about, injury prone, and Scotland, Stuart Hogg's fullback. His only downside is he's a fullback. He's so far away from the front line that you need. Some people think you need your captain right in the mix, don't you? So only Warren Gatland knows what he's going to do. I wouldn't say you're ruling Maro out of being captain of the British Lions because he gave a few pens away at the weekend, but you certainly need someone to have a word in his ear and say, listen, there's the edge. Just sometimes you've got to pull back from the edge a bit, because he's that good at what he does. He doesn't always need to be right on the edge, does he?
You think he's trying to do too much to compensate for some out of form people around him?
I just don't think he's been told. He can't have been told. And I look back on my career and I think, if
less
I did
pens.
If I did that, I would have been yanked off at half time for any team, right? If I'd given away 4 penalties, regardless if I charged down a couple and I was turning balls over for fun, I genuinely think most players would get yanked off at half time, 4 penalties. But he's obviously allowed to do what he's allowed to do because he's that dominant in every other facet of the game. So it's up to the coaches, isn't it? And I'm sure he'll read the media, he'll listen to this and he'll understand that It is a crossroads for him. So I don't think it's a compensation. I just think he's always been allowed to do that. He gets away with loads of stuff like this. You know, in the games, he's slapping the ball down in mauls and stuff like that, gets away with it. He's whooping and hollering, he's charging down. You know, he's turning over. He's, you know, monstering people in collisions. He's, you know, diving on balls. He just everything. And it's just everything is so glaringly obvious that almost like now there's no fans or whatever, and you know, referees are onto him and talking about him, that it's got to a stage where he needs to change.
We're going to have a chat now with a man who would have loved to have been at Cardiff this weekend, but instead was starring for Bath and their win at Saints. Bath and England back row Zach Mercer joins us. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks for having me.
No, it's great to have you on. First question, the one that everyone wants to know. We know you've signed for Montpellier. What does it begin with, a 5, a 6 or a 7? That's all I need to know.
Do you want it in French or English?
Mate, I'm bilingual, mate.
I can't say in either, mate.
5, 6 or 7? Oh, it's wheat. It's wheat. It's 8. Oh, amazing.
We can come on to the Montpellier stuff. Zach, I obviously played a season down there. What a place to live. And well, we can talk a little bit about the club as well. But how are things with you? Man of the match at the weekend. I actually did catch a bit of the game. I caught the game before, actually, where I thought you played really well as well. How are things going at Bath? I know you're obviously leaving at the end of the season. We've had a few chats with Freddie Burns about the kind of landscape there. Saw Stuart Hooper's arousing speech, shirt presentation. But since then, it seems to have galvanised the boys, and 3 wins in a row, and yourself playing really well.
No, yeah. To be honest, we had a pretty tough start to the season after a very promising end last year. But yeah, we're on 3 from 3 at the moment. We beat Sale away, Gloucester at home, and Northampton away. So they're not easy games, especially with players missing in our squad. We've done really well, and players playing out of position, like Josh Bayless starting in the second row and Tommy Ellis starting in the second row just because of injuries. And as a group, we've really been tight with each other, and we've actually put some real good performances. And for me personally, I've always said it, like, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for Bath. So I can't just sign a contract at Montpellier and go, that's it, I'm done now. Do you know, I can just sit back and rest on my laurels, really. I had an open conversation with Hoops, and I said, I'm here to give it my all, mate. And I don't want to sit and be in the non-23 sessions or whatever you call it on a Saturday when I could be playing rugby. Yeah,
it's fair enough. And let's talk about the process then, because obviously, you know, for you, everyone looks at it, a youngster, you know, playing exceptionally well for Bath in the England sort of fold previously. You know, we've all seen around players that we think could or should be involved in Eddie Jones's squad. It was a massive decision for you, wasn't it, to leave Bath and where you've been so successful, with the hopes of still playing international rugby, to go and sign for Montpellier, which kind of closes that door for the time being with England by playing for Montpellier. What was the process for you along the ways of speaking to people, your dad and big influences on your career around making that decision?
Yeah, mate, like you said, it was a bloody tough decision. It wasn't a decision that we just made like that. It was a long, winded decision as well. It was on the cards for a while, and a lot of conversations with my agents, with my dad, with my girlfriend, and just trying to work out what was best for me, because ultimately, like Jim and Goody, you'll know that rugby is a short career. So I want to get the most out of it, and I could sit and play in the Premiership and probably be comfortable playing for Bath week in, week out. But people that know me know that I like a challenge and like to test myself, and I wanted to get myself out of the comfort zone. And Montpellier came calling, and like you said, Jim, like Montpellier is not just a standard club; it's a pretty prestigious club, and to be offered that at 23 years of age, for me, it was a no-brainer, really. So I'm really excited for the challenge out there next season. But like you said, Goody, about England stuff, like I could sit and just wait for Eddie's phone call, but how long could that be? I don't know. So for me, it was, I'm not going to wait. I want to go out there for 2 years or however long it'll be, and develop myself on the rugby pitch and off it.
Yeah, you definitely will. And at the age of 23, you've got ages left, hopefully. So, you know, looking back at your career, 2018, I think, was the last time you got capped. Now, arguably, you're playing better now than back then when you got capped. And you look at this England squad and you look around the narrative around that about players that 100% should be in and around that squad that aren't. It almost seems to be a closed off group, and you know, then he brings in young lads, and that's that. We saw George Martin, who obviously got called into the squad off the back of Jack Willis's injuries, and Is there any chat or not? Is there any lines of communication? Obviously, a young lad, 23 years old, Billy's not going to go on forever, but also the way that you're playing, you're going off to Montpellier. Was there any chats from the England coaches about, no, don't do it, you're this far away, we want you back in the squad? Any lines of communication?
No, mate, to be honest, I haven't spoke probably properly to Eddie since 2018, since my last game against Japan, where that seemed to take quite a few names, I think, from the international scene. And that's the last time I spoke to Eddie. So the communication has died out on that front. And obviously I got hit with injuries in the 2019 season. And obviously I am back to playing probably some of my best rugby. But obviously in knowing that I've signed for Montpellier for 2 years, then obviously that kind of answers itself. But I do feel for the players who are staying in England trying to play for that squad. Obviously we all know who the players are playing well, but for me, it was a no-brainer that I had to get out and challenge myself for 2 years and hopefully come back a better player.
And is that a plan long-term to want to come back to the Premiership and get back in the England fold? Or is it, listen, these are 2 years that I'm going to go out there, as you said, improve as a player, as a person, both on and off the field, and, dive into the French way of life in Montpellier, a beautiful city, but a massive rugby club as well?
I can't say how long I'm going to be in France for. It's tough. Yeah. Obviously, I've signed a contract out there, but it could be a Stefan Armitage thing where you go out there and absolutely love it, and me and my girlfriend don't want to come back. That might be a situation. But for me, ultimately, I'm still young. I still want to get more than 2 caps for England. That is still my ambition. It's still my ambition to run out at Twickenham more than twice and get some caps under my belt. That's definitely still an ambition of mine. And I strongly believe that going out for France for however long, that when I decide to come back, I will be a better player and hopefully in a better situation to try and get into that squad.
And one thing for our listeners that perhaps they might not have seen, Montpellier is known to be a big club. It's an amazing ground as well there. And they've always had this thing around big money players going there. But this year's been quite a struggle for them, hasn't there? There's been, I think they're 12th in the top 14 at the minute. They've shopped and changed their coach. So Philippe Saint-André is now director of rugby. Garbajosa's gone. But the big news, Frank Azema's going in from Clermont next season. Were you, when you were talking to the club, were they open with you around some of the conversations that were going on behind closed doors? Did you know about Frank leaving Clermont to go to Montpellier, or is it just the French way of, here's a load of euros, we want you?
No, to be honest, so I'll tell you a story. The first time I met Philippe was probably when I was about 18, 19, and he was doing the commentary when we played Wasps up at the Rico, and he actually gave me man of the match that day. Yeah. And I had to go do an interview with him after the game, and I didn't have a clue who he was. Didn't know who the bloke was. I was like, "Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Zach." And he's like, "Oh, I'm Philippe Saint-André." I was like, "Oh, right." So, the first time I actually got introduced to Philippe.
Yeah.
And then I didn't hear from him obviously again until 2-3 years later when he's trying to sign me. But the thing for me that really impressed me with Montpellier and Philippe was that he was on the phone to me straight away, saying how much he wants me to play for this club, how much he thinks I can offer to the club. And for me, that's a massive thing, just having the backing from the director of rugby, pretty much telling you that you can make a big difference to this team. And like you said, Goody, they're obviously not flying high there, but if you look at the team on paper, they're world class. And like you said, I don't know whether it's confirmed, but the recruitment they're bringing in is obviously very exciting for me as well.
Can you let us know on anyone there that you can or can't confirm?
To be honest, Goody, I've got no idea. Like you said, for me, it's just I haven't heard a single thing about what's happening over there. I speak to Alex Zazowski every now and again, just really on advice, to be honest, trying to work out where a place is to live and all that. But I've got no inside knowledge at that club at the moment.
But Alex is enjoying it, isn't he? The lifestyle as well as, rugby's tough for him at the minute. Obviously coming from Saracens, going over there on loan. But I know he's just spent a few days in Andorra as well. So life's not bad, eh?
I did message him there saying, I see that you've had a nice little week off, mate, in the ski slopes. I think Reinach as well and Pollard, they were all up in the ski slopes for a week, whereas we were playing at Franklin Gardens yesterday. It's exciting times, definitely. I'm looking forward to getting out there.
Yeah, Philippe's a big friend of the show as well. He's coming on next week, actually. So we're looking forward to hearing what he's got to say about France. I mean, how is Bath at the minute? There was chat a few weeks ago that Stuart Hooper was under intense pressure. These 3 wins on the spin have been unbelievable. But is it a bit down to the fact that this block of games is so horrific?
Mate, it is absolutely very tough. I think I was working out the other day. I I played 80 minutes in a row, just because we haven't got anyone else to come in really, especially with the international window. We've obviously lost players on that, especially England, obviously keeping all their players in camp. But yeah, like you said, Hoops, obviously we weren't performing for him as a team, and we kind of got together now and said, you know what, we're going to sort this out, and we have done the last 3 weeks, because I said in the post-match interview yesterday that I honestly believe that when we play rugby, we are the best attacking team in the Premiership. I believe that. If you look at our forwards, our backs, on paper, we've got the best attacking threats there. And when we have a bit of confidence when we play, we're unbeatable. That's in my opinion. Obviously, I'm going to be biased towards that. But obviously, we put, like you said, 3 good performances in the last 3 weeks. Not pretty. No, really not pretty. The scorelines doesn't flatter us. But like I said, the wins against Sale away, Northampton away, and a derby day at the Rec against Gloucester, who are a very niggly outfit. So for us, we're pretty happy where we're at the moment.
You talk about that style of play that Bath want to play. There's a big argument, isn't there, for summer rugby? I'm a keen advocate to see rugby played on dry pitches. You had a big blister at the end of that game. And my dad, who was in the Special Forces for a few years, said the only thing that would take a man out of a jungle was a blister. Very, very painful to do with the hard grounds. But, I mean, you personally love playing on that kind of track, don't you?
Yeah, so for me, that obviously the weather was perfect, and going up to Franklin Gardens, who everyone that's been there, that pitch is ridiculous, the best in the Premiership.
No,
there's no argument. That's the best in the Premiership. So for me, going on that, I actually went on the pitch to warm up, and I came back off, went to the kit man and said, "Have you got any small studs?" And I did ask, literally, don't make any studs smaller than what I had in. So I was like, right, okay, I'm in trouble here. But anyway, carried on the game. And with about 10 minutes to go, or 20 minutes to go, I thought my stud was broken, because I was like, something was wiggling on the bottom of my boot. So I had to sit down, took it off, and I was like, it's not broken. And then I took my sock off, and then there it was. Probably the biggest blister I've ever seen.
So sore.
Like you saw on BT, I was quite proud of it, to be honest. I was showing it around the changing room after the game, the piece of skin about that big. But I've literally got both my feet. I've got 2 blisters, massive ones, both taped up. Hopefully trying to get them ready to go again to training tomorrow. But yeah, it wasn't pretty. But like you said, I wouldn't have it any other way. That's definitely my style of pitch.
You're winning by a point, and Northampton have that penalty 5 metres in from touch, 5 metres out, and all you see is Tom Dunn, who is playing out of his skin. He's not particularly good looking, or not. He's not particularly nice to look at, is he? But he was so pumped for it. Did you boys talk Northampton psychologically into going for the scrum there? Because it's a great thing to see. He's calling for it. Scrum. Kick the 3 points, boys. You probably get the win.
Yeah, it's tough, mate, because if you watch the rest of the game, we struggled scrum time. Massively, we struggled scrum time.
Yeah.
But I knew, well, Dunny knew, obviously, being in the hooker in that position, that he wanted the scrum.
Yeah.
He believed that, obviously, he had Jamie Batty, Henry Thomas either side of him, and they believed that they could do a job. And I think you're probably right. I think by Dunny literally screaming there with his minging ears bleeding, his black head tape on, like headbutting and telling him, let's go for a scrum here. And then we went for it, and you saw the reaction from the boys, even me. Like, that was a game changer. That won us the game. There's no doubt about that. We found a way to actually be able to scrum. And like you said, Dunny has been playing out his skin week in, week out, and I hope to see him get some more caps for England, because he certainly deserves it the way he's playing at the moment.
Yeah, Zach, at the age of 23, I don't think you look at it now, you look back on your career with regrets, because it's been brilliant so far, let's be honest, and you're about to set off into the sunset for a couple of years. But you've seen Cam obviously been capped by Scotland, and if he can stay fit, he's going to be a 50-plus cap player. With the way things stand at the minute, and this is a pretty shit question, it's a hard question for you to answer, and you probably know what's coming. If you played for Scotland, right, and you had the opportunity to do that, I'm not joking, I reckon you'd be a 100-cap player. Just the way that you play, and probably not just because the lack of depth that we've got, arguably at number 8. Is there a part of you that regrets not playing for Scotland a little bit on a professional basis?
It's tough, mate, because I remember speaking to Cam before the Scotland squad was announced, and he actually came up and asked for my advice. Would I have done anything differently? And for me, Jim, it's tough because I have no Scottish blood in me. I lived there on resident. I lived there because of my dad's job, and I qualified for Scotland on residency. So for me, I got no part Scottish in me. I would have just played on residency grounds. And For me, I'm not arguing saying that's not right, but for me, it was either New Zealand or England. That growing up, that was the only two teams I wanted to play for. So I don't regret playing for England, certainly not. I mean, playing in front of 80,000 people at Twickenham was such a special day for me, so I don't regret picking England at all. But I'm very glad that Cam's made a decision, and like you said, when he stays fit, he'll be in there for the foreseeable future. And I'm also very excited to see Josh Bayliss that's decided that he wants to go down the Scottish route, because he's someone that's been playing out of his skin recently as well. And I'm sure I'll see him get capped very soon, potentially even in the Six Nations.
Thanks for coming on, Zach. Best of luck for the rest of the season with Bath and with Montpellier as well.
One of the most naturally gifted, and it's easy to throw them words about, rugby players in the Premiership currently. Just makes the game look so easy, breaks tackles. He's one of them, you're like, how does he do it? And I'll tell you what, Montpellier's game is Bath's pain. Loss. I just tried to make it rhyme. But, you wonder what Faletau will do in the form of his life, I'd say. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. You wonder what Faletau will do. He's back into the kind of form which made him, one of the best eights in the world. And I think that Zach complements that, whether or not Faletau, I don't know. Let's just say he's off to France as well. Just throw it out there.
Toulon, is it?
Yeah, I'll just say Toulon or Toulouse, with Kano retiring.
And Parise retiring from Toulon.
Very, very true. Look at us, mate. We're fitting in players left, right, and centre. But 23, there's an element of me that's sad. He's 23. He's off to France to play. But you look at it, there's not many players that go to France, Johnny Wilkinson, from England and carve up and absolutely love it. But Zach Mercer could be that lad. Andrew, you were that lad as well for breath, but no one saw it.
Got me back in the England team, actually, that did. I left Leicester. I hadn't been picked for ages, and I knew I wasn't going to get picked under that coach. Very similar circumstances, actually, to Brian Ashton was head coach, and he was just never going to pick me. So I thought, Breathe have come in, offered me a hell of a deal. I'm never going to play for England again, so why not? And I think Zach isn't thinking in his mind he's never going to play for England again, but he's thinking right now under Eddie Jones, he hasn't spoken to him in 2 years. So why isn't he going to go and take the opportunity? And you hear him talk about how he wants to go and better himself as a player and as an individual. He loves a challenge. I think it's great for him. I'm sad that he's leaving the Premiership and potentially, playing for England, because he's a brilliant player. But for him as an individual and his family, his missus, and a lifestyle choice, it's an amazing opportunity. And hopefully, I tried to press him on a little bit. Does he want to come back to England? He just said, who knows? I might turn into a Stefan Armitage and end up living out there forever. But, we all want to see him play for England because of the quality that you just talked about. And hopefully he goes there, carves up, comes back to the Premiership. Maybe Eddie's not in a job anymore in a couple of years and he gets picked. Who knows?
Well, Ireland hit some form, putting almost 50, winning 48-10 on Italy in Rome. What do you guys make of that game?
Really impressed with Ireland, to be fair, under a bit of pressure, I think, going into that game. And you could see the relief, Andy Farrell and the players after the game. I still genuinely think Italy are improving. I know it sounds a ridiculous thing to say. I genuinely think they look all right in parts of their game. Physicality in the back row, young halfback pairing, but really professional performance from Ireland. I think you could have gone there and made it a tough game for yourself. But I like Ireland as well. I'm being positive. Look at me.
You're so positive, James.
Yeah, I am. I'm Wales. I'm a Celt, aren't I? And, but yeah, I think loads of positives from an Ireland perspective. Obviously, watching Craig Casey, who we spoke about the week before, commentating on him for the Munster #AlwaysEdinburgh game. And you can actually see some evolution now in the Ireland squad.
Will Connors in the back row was awesome.
Will Connors, he's been classmate as well for Leinster. Yeah. Seen him play loads as well. So I like the look of Ireland. It's not an easy place to go and put 50 on a team under pressure. You look at their last two games for Ireland, got Scotland away, so at BT Murrayfield, and then the big game for them, if they, I don't know, I think Scotland will win, but that's just me being biased. The big game for them, the big test will be the England game to see how they come through that. But it's a weird old tournament, this, isn't it?
Let's have a look at the Premiership now. Goody, what's happened to Wasps?
They've got the bug. Wasps have got the bug. See what I did there, Jim? Wasps and the bug. They've got the Jim Hamilton bug, just giving penalties away left, right and centre. They've given 50 penalties away in their last 3 games. So discipline. I think Eddie Jones must have been down there just telling them what to do and how to train. But Fair play. Irish are a good side. It was a bit of a turgid, scrappy game. But yeah, Wasps, they're missing quite a few players. Fekitonail's out. Obviously Dan Robson launched Bria, and I said it before, but tip the slipper to Irish because they got the draw last week against Bristol when they were getting absolutely humped at one point. They're a decent outfit. They're playing some quality rugby. Wasps need to sort of discipline out. That's all I can say, really.
Exeter lost away at Sale on Friday night, didn't they? I've dipped a little bit.
No, good for Sale. I'm obviously happy for them. We like Sale. We like Simon Orange.
We do.
Only because his brothers with Jason Orange from Take That. And obviously Al Sanderson. And you're thinking, please, not 3 in a row for Al Sanderson. Exeter, for whatever reason, aren't as good this year. But a few talking points from that game. Jack Yendall, skips, red carded. And we can speak about red cards if we want, but we don't want to be too negative. Deserved red card. AJ McGinty, brilliant for Sale again.
Again?
Who was calling for Marcus Smith to go to Sale?
Was that you, Jim?
Yeah, it might have been me. Yeah. It might have been me. But yeah, I mean, the Premiership's wide open. Big win against a good Exeter team, but with 14 men. What are you going to do?
You talk about that Jack Yandel red card. That's his first card in, I can't remember what the stat is, call it 200 games. First ever card of any colour in 200 games, and he's a hooker. It's not a bad record, but then obviously it's quite costly. The thing for Sale is it took them forever to break down the Exeter team, and they just kept playing kind of one-out rugby, trying to take Exeter on where they were strong. Cordero got hooked off once Yandel got red carded, so they could bring a hooker on and have 8 forwards. So much space on the edge, but Sale didn't use it. But fair play, Curtis Langdon, who was a young pup at London Irish when I did about 3 weeks of pre-season there. Lovely lad, actually.
He can score, right?
Yeah, he scored 8, and as you said, AJ McGinty converts it, but also knocked a penalty over to win it at the death. And, there was some controversy at the end of the game, though. They had an opportunity, Sale, to end the game, boot it out. They didn't. Exeter end up getting a couple of penalties, going the length, and then there was a line out 5 metres out.
Oh, I saw that.
I couldn't see it though. Whether it was a push, was there nothing?
Nothing happened. Sam Simmons, desperado, scored again. Sam Simmons, and he weren't very happy. And so controversial, but not.
But it wasn't them. It wasn't them, was it? No. I can see why Eddie Jones don't pick him then.
You think you guys talked up Quins a little bit too much last week?
Mate, they switched one of my old clubs, didn't they? That's what I'm saying.
That's it, mate. You just, it's in the DNA, isn't it? I don't want to be too horrible. No.
They made a load of changes, Quins, to be fair. But what I can see, when Chris Ashton leaves, you're bringing up Ashley or whatever, but Chris Ashton leaves and, they're saying there's plenty of good youngsters at the club. Tyrone Green on the wing, he's about 14 years old, but my God, he played well. His finishing was top notch. Looks quick, strong, very similar to Lewis Liner in looks. Played exceptionally well. But they made a load of changes. This is a tough block, and we've always said we're going to see a Premiership that's super competitive this year with, some freak results because of COVID and how teams are preparing and everything that goes with it that we perhaps don't understand because we're not living in one of those bubbles. But I think there's something like 10 or 12 Premiership games on the spin here. And we spoke to Zach Mercer about it earlier. It's tough to back it up week on week on week because of the condensed season. And Quinn's you have to rest and rotate. You can't just go with your top boys week in, week out. They did. Newcastle hadn't played for quite a few weeks actually because they had a couple of games cancelled. Rocked up, and Brett Connon taught him everything he knows when I was at Newcastle a few years ago, and he kicks the winner to give Newcastle the points. So Dino will be happy because obviously with Bloodgate when he was at Quins he left, and it's always nice to beat one of your old teams. I remember when I came out of retirement and we beat Quins, and me and Dino had a beer in the changing room afterwards, and we're the only 2 people drinking. Everyone else was on the old protein shakes. I was like, Dino, get the fish and chips in as well, son.
Well, let's finish things off with the good, the bad, and the ugly, which is brought to you by the helpful guys at Suns, who are helping men with one of the key issues that doesn't often get talked about: how to keep your hair. They're a men's health brand that offers a range of licensed and medically proven products for preventing and treating hair loss, and they deliver via a monthly or 3 monthly subscription direct to your door. It's reasonably priced and they get results in 9 out of 10 men. So just visit suns.co.uk and use the code rugbypod20 to get 20 quid off your first order. That's sons.co.uk and the code is rugbypod20.
Yeah, loads of good. We're going to start off in France, and there might be a bit of a theme running through this. We're going to start off in France, the top 14. Toulouse won 14 points to 11 away at La Rochelle, who were top of the table, so a massive win for Toulouse. And they had Cheslin Colby playing at 10. I mean, how French is this? Cheslin Colby starting at 10, but Zach Holmes, who is a 10, started at 13.
Didn't see it, but that's mental.
Yeah, and effectively, Cheslin Colby played pretty well, actually. And
Of course he did.
You know, let's just say that Fabien Gaultier went to watch that one as well. Who knows?
I've heard that Cheslin Colby's going to Natal Sharks with Sia.
Really?
Yeah, there's a rumour for you. Probably,
there we
probably
go.
not right. I get everything wrong.
Yeah, put it out there. What else was good? Sam Simmons. We mentioned Exeter lost the game, but Sam Simmons, 12 tries in 11 Premiership games now. Not a bad record, Eddie. Maybe give him a go in the England squad. Back in the Premiership and staying there. Zach Mercer, we had him on earlier. A fantastic win for Bath, but 2 tries and a man of the match performance in Bath's win down at Saints, and some pretty brutal blisters to show as well. And staying in that game, we've got to tip the slipper fully to Rhys Priestland. I mentioned it last week where he was getting close to the record. He was one behind Johnny Wilkinson in terms of Premiership consecutive kicks at goal, and he went through the record. He is now the Premiership's top most consecutive kick point scorer, if that makes any sense. He's basically got over 30 now. So yeah, it was a tough conversion as well to break the record. So
over 30 not missed.
Yeah, 30 on the spin.
That's ridiculous.
Do
you think he's thinking about that? He must. I'd always think I'd be thinking so much different shit when I'd be kicking at goal. I'd miss every one.
Well, that's what I did. I think my record was about 4 on the spin, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, he'd have known going into that game he needed 2 kicks to break the record, 1 to equal it, 2 to break it. So yeah, phenomenal effort. 30 on the spin in some of the conditions he's kicked in this season as well. Fair play. So big shout out to Rhys Priestland. Let's go over to Ireland, shall we? And Peter Stringer's post on social media.
How good.
Amazing.
How good.
Amazing. Yeah, Peter Stringer is vertically challenged, as is Craig Casey. I didn't realise how short Craig Casey was, to be fair. But tip the slipper to Craig Casey, first and foremost, for your first cap. Hell of an impact coming off the bench there, but also the picture of Peter Stringer fully grown up holding what could be Craig Casey just before lockdown. And he mentioned that as well, didn't he? I thought it was a brilliant tweet. Bit of banter, so well done to those two. Staying in Ireland, their performance over in Italy, professional. Their attack looked sharp, but a special mention to Will Connors. I thought his performance was phenomenal for them in the back row, so well done him. What else was good? Rugby Pass, Jim. Your mob, our crew. Call them what you will.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Jim Hamilton and Rugby Pass.
Yeah, okay.
Because they brought Super Rugby Aotearoa to the people. They brought it to the people. We could all watch it over the weekend. How good was it to see? Thank you, Rugby Pass. You've made thousands of people up and down the UK and the British and Irish Isles very happy with supplying us with the ability to watch Super Rugby Aotearoa. And Andy Rowe, you obviously subscribed and you were pretty happy with that as well, weren't you?
Yeah, very, very happy. Super Rugby Aotearoa.
Aotearoa. You need to roll the R's.
There we go. Finally, the good. We can only go to one place, really, and that is Wales,
yes,
the land of our fathers, the land of our fathers. Well, my grandfather was born in Wales, so I'm a quarter Welsh. But a fantastic performance from them. Special shout out to George North, the youngest player ever to reach 100 caps for his country. Had an outstanding game. Callum Sheedy off the bench made a big difference as well. They were heavily criticised in the autumn by Jim Hamilton.
I'm sorry.
They've been heavily criticised since the World Cup in 2019 by Jim Hamilton.
I'm sorry.
But Wayne Pivac, his coach is Stephen Jones, who I messaged after the game at the weekend. Such a top bloke, Stephen Jones is as well. They've been given pelters in the press by Jim Hamilton and friends. They've come good. They're 3 from 3. They've beaten England at home with a bit of help from Pascal Gauzer, but mainly themselves. Tip the slipper to Wales, everyone involved in that team, especially George North and his 100 caps. They get the good this week.
On Stephen Jones, when he was meant to come to Leicester that time, Goody, probably to replace you, myself, Jono, Geordie, all the legends of the club have taken him out when he's come with his agent, got absolutely slippervilled.
Yeah.
And he ended up signing for Claremont because he weren't keen.
He didn't like the piss.
I can't do it. We're like, you Welsh bad, you're bad. We're just screaming butt at him, and then he didn't ever come back, and I've not spoken to him since.
Yeah. So no, he's a top bloke, is Jonesy. The bad, we'll start off in Wales again. I mentioned it earlier. The Dragons, but lost 26-15 at Zebra in the Guinness Pro 14, who didn't even have any of their Italian internationals. So Dragons, I mean, just blame the defence coach. Is he defence coach? What is he?
Well, he's not, but let's just say he is.
Just blame Luke Narroway, I mean. How bad's that? Dragons losing to Zebra away from home, not long after Wales had beaten England. What else was bad, Jim? Your team. #always. Back-to-back defeats in the past 2 weeks at home. Loses the Scarlets 27-25. I mean, what's going on there?
Yeah, I know. It's not a great season, but
what you say? Why do you want Cockers out, mate? Why are you being horrible?
Yeah, well, I don't want Cockers out, but I was just thinking about my other team. Saracens beat Cov. Don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't actually. Did they beat them?
The big one. The funniest thing was I was having a chat with Kelly Brown because he's going back from Glasgow to Saracens, and we were talking about their loss to Leinster, and he's like, "Oh, it's all right though. Saracens beat Cov," and I said, this is how bad it has got for Saracens that me and you, two Saracens legends, are talking on the phone, and the line that has come out of your mouth is, "It's all good. Saracens beat Cov." I was like, what a fall from grace, not just for you, but also for Saracens. Jeez.
Yeah, they'll be back there, I'm sure. What else was bad? England's discipline, or lack of it at times in the game, that cost them dearly. But let's not beat around Jim's bush anymore. The bad this week can only go to a collective country with certain individuals that are going to get a special mention. And that country, Jim, is...
China. France.
Yeah, France. Definitely France. Starting off with... what about Roman Poit the weekend? Ian Henderson puts the ball over the line, dabs it down, the ball then comes loose.
No.
Oh, no. I'm just having a Galois outside, no problem. Espresso. No. It is not try. High five. It was a try, Roman. So let's talk about him. He was terrible. Mathieu Reynal, the referee, not much better. Pascal Gauzer in Cardiff. At least he's put his hands up and said he's made mistakes, so that wasn't great. But the big one, the main one, Fabien Galtier, with Edgar David's glasses on. What are you doing? Whether he went to watch his son play or whatever he did, and the players went for waffles, and everything's kicked off, and then you blame someone in Ireland, then you blame us. Oh no, it's all you, Fabien.
Blame the Irish.
The bad this week can only go. Let's just give it the whole of France, mate. Whole of France, you have it. And then the ugly, social media, just the abuse directed at Sonia McLaughlin, just disgraceful. Have a word with yourselves. Would you say it to your mum, your sister, your brother? You probably say it to your brother, but would you talk to your mum, your sister, your mates, missus, or anything like that online? No, you wouldn't. So wind your neck in. Stop being horrible to everyone. No death threats to Genji. No abuse to Sonia McLaughlin or any other people. Think about what you tweet. Have an opinion by all means, but there's a line, and do not step over the line and get personal and aggressive and abusive. It's just not nice.
Thanks, Gertie. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, producer Tim, and thank you very much for listening. And don't forget to hit subscribe on whatever platform you get your podcasts on. Leave us a review and check us out on YouTube as well.
Rugby pod. That was my Welsh accent to say sorry again. I love you all.
Pod.